Bula Vinaka boxing fans, let's talk about Olexander the Cat Usyk. Olexander Usyk, for me, is an incredible champion, an inspirational human being, and someone that both men, children, fathers could look up to. I've been thinking about this video for quite some time now, and the making of this video basically comes from a couple of videos I've done on Tyson Fury, and one was around whether or not Tyson Fury was elite or overrated, and more recently around whether he's actually in shape for the Usyk fight, for the undisputed heavyweight championship on May 18th. We're only a couple of weeks away, people, less than a couple of weeks away. And for this video, I wanted to talk about whether or not Olexander Usyk can be regarded as an elite heavyweight champion, heavyweight fighter, or is he yet to be truly tested? Is he unproven and simply overrated? Now, before we do that though, what I thought we should do is recap on some of the achievements that Olexander Usyk has had in his career. And I'm going to be repeating myself a little bit. I did an earlier video. If you haven't seen that, please go check it out. That's my top 10 favorite heavyweights of all time. I have listed Usyk in there, so please go and check out that video. I think you'd really enjoy that. But Usyk, so I'm going to refer to some notes that I've got here, but some of the things that I can remember off the top of my head. So Olexander Usyk, Ukrainian champion. He is a former Olympic gold medalist, won Olympic gold at the 2012 London Olympics. He is the former undisputed cruiserweight champion. And he has fought and beat pretty much every single cruiserweight contender champion there was in his era. Some of the people that he defeated were just incredible. Let me just read you some of the names that Usyk beat to become the cruiserweight king. So in his first title match against Krzysztof Głowacki, he won his world title against Krzysztof Głowacki, who was at the time 26-0, more experienced in the pro game, and Usyk absolutely schooled him. It was almost like Ali versus Sonny Liston. So, go back and check that fight. Usyk versus Głowacki to win his first world title, an absolute schooling. He then goes on, has a fight against Thabasio, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, Thabasio Machunu, 17-2, he KOs him, relatively good, easy night's work. But then he goes on to fight a young Michael Hunter at cruiserweight. And now Michael Hunter was having some good success early on in this fight. Michael Hunter does get dropped in the fight and ends up losing on points. And at the time, Michael Hunter was 12-0. Now, for those of you who don't know Michael Hunter, he would go on to become a heavyweight fighter, had some really good notable wins against, what is that guy's name? I've forgotten his name now. But he drew against Alexander Povetkin, and he also, Olinga Makabu's brother, I've forgotten his name. It's just, lost the train of thought. He's coached by Billy Nelson. Forgotten his name now. But yeah, he's a big heavyweight. It'll come to me. So anyway, after beating Michael Hunter, he would go on to the World Super Series of Boxing, and he would take on Marco Hunt and beat him in his own backyard. He would take on Marius Briedis. Now for me, this was an incredible fight. Marius Briedis at the time was 23-0. And he had a lot of success against Usyk. He was winning the early rounds, and Usyk really had to adapt, change his style. And I think Marius Briedis gave him his toughest fight in his pro career. You know, go out and check that fight if you can. Brilliant fight. And then he would go on to absolutely school Murat Gassiev in 2018. And that fight for me, because Gassiev was a renowned puncher, and Usyk just did not let him have any opportunities, completely bamboozled him, took his power away, and yeah, completely outboxed him. And just when he thought Usyk had done it all, unified the cruiserweight division, fought every single champion, went into the World Super Series of Boxing tournament to decide who the best cruiserweight was, he wasn't satisfied, because there was one name that he felt he needed to cross off. And that was a person who was also a former cruiserweight champion who actually never lost his belt, his cruiserweight world title in the ring. And that is Tony Bellew. Because Tony Bellew vacated his belt after beating Olinga Makabu at Goodison Park, and he would move up to heavyweight to challenge David Haye. And we all know the story around that. He would have those emphatic 2 victories against David Haye. The first one where David Haye's knee goes and valiantly tries to fight on, and in the second one he just knocks David Haye out, drops him a couple of times, and it was like he saw a great athlete, a great former cruiserweight champion become old and washed up overnight. So I remember this fight at the time, and Bellew had so much confidence, and he was riding the highs of beating David Haye. And Bellew actually was also having good success against Usyk. Shockingly though, I didn't think he was up, but I think all 3 judges had him up on the scorecards at round 8 before he got stopped. So had that gone the distance, Bellew could have continued to do what he was doing. Usyk may have actually lost that fight via a split decision or a unanimous decision, but Tony Bellew actually gassed, which led to the stoppage, a brilliant left hook that finished Tony Bellew off and basically sent him into retirement. That was it for Tony Bellew. He wouldn't come back, and he never has. Despite all the rumours, that was Bellew's last fight. He then would move up to heavyweight. He would ease his way in, challenge Chaz Witherspoon, and he, makes Witherspoon retire on a stool. Goes on to challenge Derek Chisora, another tough fight. A lot of people think that Derek Chisora was his hardest fight, especially at heavyweight. You would argue that yes, at heavyweight, Chisora was probably his hardest fight. I gave Chisora the first 4 rounds, but after that, I think Usyk really came into the game, started to get his combinations going, throwing different punches, his angles. That left was working well, the left hook. And you could see Chisora tiring. You can see Chisora was hurt on occasion, and it became a pretty easy night's work at the office for Usyk. He would then go on to fight Joshua in his own backyard. And despite all the odds, people were saying he was too small, he wasn't strong enough. Look at what Chisora did to him. Imagine what Anthony Joshua's going to do. Tony Bellew even thought too small for Joshua. Joshua's going to do him. Goes out and, for me, puts on his career best performance. You're talking about a 6'6" combination punching behemoth in Joshua, who punches very hard and fast with combinations. And yes, he was tentative and he wasn't throwing, but that's because Usyk started to confuse Joshua, made Joshua think, made Joshua question his own ability on trying to throw those punches. And he couldn't get them across, because you saw when Joshua did try to connect, he was having good success against Usyk, especially to the body. But he would go on to beat Joshua. and then he would go on to rematch Joshua a year later and would win again. Not as comfortably, a split decision, but albeit very similar, in similar fashion across 12 rounds. And then most recently, again, another year later, he would fight Daniel Dubois and would have a very controversial fight and victory over Dubois, where the infamous body shot that landed on the belt line. So technically, it would be deemed a low blow because that's what the boxing rules state, unless there's an agreement between the ref and the parties. We weren't made known to those arrangements prior, so we don't know what the agreement was. But it was definitely not a groin shot. It was right on the belt line. And did he milk it, man? He milked it, sat down, got his time. Even when he got up, Dubois missed his opportunity. He should have just completely jumped on him through the kitchen sink, still cautious, still trying to hit the body. Usyk did not like it. And then he came back and would end up stopping Daniel Dubois, making Daniel Dubois quit once again. And now he's got his fight with Tyson Fury. So there's a couple of things I wanted to point out with Usyk. A few things I wanted to point out. Obviously, fantastic champion, undisputed cruiserweight, unified world heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist. Usyk is also, people, the undefeated slayer. That's right. He thrives on beating undefeated fighters. Just look at the people that he's beat who are undefeated. He took Glowacki's belt and O, Michael Hunter's O, Marius Bradis' O, Gassiev's O, right? And he's now fighting Tyson Fury. Second point. Whilst he takes your O, he likes to school you or knock you out in your own backyard. Now, thankfully for Tyson Fury, this isn't in Manchester or Morecambe. I mean, it'll be embarrassing enough given all the stuff that Fury has said around Usyk's a middleweight, he's too small, he's a rabbit, a sausage. The list goes on. If he then loses to the rabbit, to the sausage, to the middleweight, and then loses in his own backyard, that will be even more embarrassing. So that may be one saving grace for Fury if he loses, but he certainly will have a lot of egg on his face if he does lose against Olexander Usyk. And maybe that's why he started to change his tune around Usyk. If you look at some of the recent interviews Fury's been doing around Usyk, he's been very respectful. What is Fury playing at? Calling Usyk a bad man. How do you go from being a sausage, a middleweight, a rabbit, to now being a bad man? So you just never know with Fury. You got to take what he says with a pinch of salt, to be honest. So that's the other thing. And number 3 is that Alexander Usyk isn't afraid to go into the trenches, isn't afraid to come on the front foot. You'll think naturally that he's a back foot fighter, but he's not. He's not a pre-Tyson Fury Kronk. Pre-Kronk Tyson Fury, should I say. Or, Floyd Mayweather likes to fight on the back foot. He actually moves in circles, and he's got his angles, and he's actually very aggressive. He's right in the pocket. You watch his fight against AJ, he very rarely goes on the back foot. It's actually AJ that is on the back foot a lot. It's only when he starts to get hit to the body that you start seeing him move to the back foot. Now, Hatman actually did a really good video. He said he said that Usyk will fight the way you allow him. So if you come at Usyk really hard and strong and you're quite powerful, he will start moving and moving to the side. He won't move back, but he'll move to the side. If you are trying to go on the back foot, he will come after you. throwing combinations. You saw that against Bula as well. So I suppose for me, Olexander Usyk, with everything that he's achieved across the cruiserweight division, beating Anthony Joshua not once but twice, the two-time unified world champion, Olympic gold medalist himself, also beating Daniel Dubois, who's a very credible, strong, young heavyweight, beating Derek Chisora, and everything that he's done in the cruiserweight division. For me, I have Usyk in the current heavyweight list in the top 3. He is an elite fighter, an elite champion. Does he have the best heavyweight resume? No. How many elite fighters has Usyk fought? Only one, and he's beaten them both. He's beaten him both times. So in terms of body of work, you can say he's only fought one elite champion or elite boxer in the heavyweight division. He fought about 3 or 4 in the cruiserweight division, and he beat them all. But in heavyweight, it's only been one, and he passed the test with flying colours twice, and he will attempt to do that again against Tyson Fury. If he beats Tyson Fury, even if he beats him once, Olexander Usyk, for me, will go down as probably one of the greatest fighters of all time. Because everything he achieved, Olympics, cruiserweight, heavyweight, two-time two-weight undisputed world champion, right? Undefeated, and Olympic gold medalist. So you'd have to rank him there as one of the greatest fighters of all time, I would say. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Is Usyk an elite heavyweight? We know he's an elite cruiserweight, but is he an elite heavyweight? Or does he still need to beat Fury and beat a few more top heavyweight contenders to be regarded as an elite heavyweight, elite champion? Or is he not elite and he's just overrated, regardless of whether he beats Fury or not? As always, thank you for your support. You're watching Seru Bale's boxing and pro wrestling YouTube channel. Please leave a comment, like, share and subscribe. Vinaka.